All right. We are now going to discuss about PTE. This session is especially for the beginners. If you already know about the exam structure, the kind of questions you get in the test, and how you're supposed to prepare for it, then you can stop watching it now, because I'm not going to talk about how to answer any specific questions, but I'm just going to tell you what happens on the day of the exam, and in general, what kind of questions are asked in your test and how you are supposed to answer those questions. And at any time, if you have any questions, please write in that email box that you can see on the side, and I'll try to answer to your emails. Do not hesitate to ask questions, because that's why we are doing this session. And talking about PT, by now, I hope all of you already know that this is a completely computer-based test. You have to do everything on a computer, and even your assessment is done by a computer. So everything you do will be checked by a computer algorithm, a computer program, which will try to find out how good your English is. Now, when we think about that, I think all of us can at least sense this. How can a computer check our speaking and writing? At least in reading and listening, answers can be fixed. And because of that, they can simply check whether the answer we gave is the answer they have or not, and decide how much score we should get. But how do they do this in speaking and writing? That's the most interesting part of this exam, because they use a program, a specific computer program to do this. There are some problems in this program, this algorithm, because of which we often can use different tricks to manipulate the scoring system and get the desired score. But that's not the focus of today's discussion. I'm only trying to show you how you should, what happens in your test and what you should do about it, or how should you prepare about it. In order to do this, we will do one complete mock test on our website. Not do it, but actually I will show you how questions are asked, in what order they are asked, and what you're supposed to do. And mock tests, of course, are a great way to learn about this, because our mock test is designed to replicate the exam environment, to help you understand and learn things in the same way you are asked to do in the exam. So let's just start one mock test. This is mock test 1, and this is what I'm going to start now. In your exam, before you see this screen, you actually have to give your introduction. Now, introduction is the first part of your test. This is the unscored part. They are not going to give you any score for the introduction, but you still have to give your introduction, which can be up to 1 minute long. Now, how long should you speak in introduction part? Around 30 seconds should be enough. But one thing you need to remember is you have to be prepared for this. Otherwise, in the exam, you are more likely to fumble, because it is unscored part. Most of us do not pay any attention to it, and that's understandable, because if you are not getting any score, what's the point of getting worried about it? But the reason you should do good in this part is because this is more like the introduction of the whole test. If you do some mistakes here, if you don't do that well in this part, you're more likely to get stressed in the subsequent sections and have more problems. So although this is unscored part, I still highly recommend that you prepare yourself for the introduction. And it's very simple. You can mention in your introduction what your name is, why you are taking the test, what are your plans, and so on. A sample introduction can be something like, my name is Roman and I'm doing this PTE test because I want to do further education in Australia. Most of the universities in Australia require English score, and that's why I'm doing this test. I hope a good score in this test will help me to get good scholarship in the universities. That's it. Something very simple. Just make sure you have 3-4 lines, ready-made lines, before you go to the exam, so that you feel more confident when the test starts. Okay, now the next part, of course, is your actual test. And in your actual test, the first type of question, or the first section you do, is speaking. And so what do you have to do in speaking? You have to speak with a computer. And that's something that makes many people nervous. And not just nervous, it's actually a little bit discomforting experience as well. Because when we speak with humans, we have a two-way interaction. We don't have to keep speaking all the time. There will be something that they will also be saying to us, and based on that we can change our response. And naturally there will be response in there will be emotion in everything, because we are speaking with humans, something that we have been doing for so long. So we don't really need to think how to speak with humans, because we do that every day. But we have to think about how to speak with computers, because that's not something we do every day. So we have to learn how to bring emotion in our voice when speaking with computers. You are speaking with machines means you are more likely to be mechanical in your response as well. You are more likely to be flat in your tone. There will not be any emotion in your voice. But unfortunately, the system also looks at variation in your voice, like whether you are speaking as if you are speaking with a real human being or not. And because of that, if you forget that point, you may have problem in the exam. So try to speak as if you are speaking with a real human being. Now, let's look at the question types. The first question type you do in your test is called read aloud. So what happens in this question is you will be given a text like this, the one you see here, and your job is to read this text loud. And usually you will have around 40 seconds to do this. So you will see a recording window here, which shows you how much time is left before the recording starts. So you have 40 seconds most of the times for the recording. And after the 40 seconds are over, the microphone starts recording you. A very important point here is you have to start speaking in the first 3 seconds. If you don't say anything in the first 3 seconds, then the microphone automatically closes, and no matter what you say after that, it will not evaluate you. Another thing is, in your exam, if you stay silent for more than 3 seconds at any time, then the microphone does not record anything you say after that. So let's say that I'm reading this answer. Students who wish to take a break from their studies will need to put in an application for leave of absence. And then after that, let's say I don't speak for 3 seconds, then the microphone closes and it does not record anything at all. So this is read aloud. Very simple. You have to read aloud what you see on the screen. And this question type is very important question of speaking. One strange thing about PTE is when you are doing speaking, you are also being evaluated for other skills. For example, this is a question you are doing in a speaking section. So it should have been just the assessment of speaking. But interestingly, this question also evaluates your ability for reading. So whatever score you get after doing this section goes to speaking and also goes to reading. Now, don't think too much about it right now. Just make sure that you understand what you are supposed to do in this question. So in summary, I just told you 2 things. You have to read what is on the screen, and based on how you do that, you get a score for speaking and for reading. Before the recording starts, you have 40 seconds to prepare yourself. After 40 seconds, you see the recording bar there. Once you see that recording bar, you have to start speaking in the first 3 seconds. And if you look at the top here, top corner, right corner here, then you can see the total number of questions in this particular section, that is speaking, and the number of questions you are doing right now. So I'm doing the first question out of 35 questions in the speaking section of my test. This is the timer here, which shows you how much total time you have for speaking and how much time you have already spent. You don't really need to think much about time here because the time is fixed. You have 40 seconds to prepare, 40 seconds to speak. And of course, when you finish one question, you go to the next question. So let's say I have done this. What I do is I have to click next and go to the next question. And then again, the same thing happens. The recording starts and then you have, the timing starts. You have 40 seconds to prepare. In 40 seconds, you first make sure that you can read everything on the screen. You prepare yourself. And then once your 40 seconds are over, then the recording starts and you start speaking in front of the microphone. And you get around 5, 6, or 7 questions of read aloud in your text. So in our set here, you can see we have 6 questions. After you finish read aloud, the next question type you get is called repeat sentence. So let's see what happens in repeat sentence.
I still don't understand the last sentence.
So in repeat sentence, the speaker says a sentence, a complete sentence, which can be somewhere from around 5 words to sometimes up to 17 words long. What are you supposed to do? You are supposed to repeat that sentence exactly as the speaker did. And how well you can do that will determine how much score you will get. So there are some scoring criteria, there are some tips and tricks which you can learn in the live class we do every day on the weekdays, or you can learn from the mini lessons we have in PTE study and practice section here. You can go to individual question type and find out how the scoring is done for different sections so that you know what are the important areas for getting highest score and how you can get the score. Okay, so repeat sentence is very simple question. You hear a sentence and you have to repeat it. Okay, and based on how much of the sentence you can repeat and how good your pronunciation and how good your fluency is, you get the points. So how many questions of repeat sentence do we get in the exam? We get around 10 questions. So it can be around 8 questions as well as around 12 questions depending on the set you get in the test, but it will be around 10 questions in the exam. Now, another important thing here is repeat sentence is a test of speaking as well as listening. Now, if you remember in Read Aloud, I told you that it's a test of reading and speaking because you have to read what is on the screen and then you have to read it loud to record yourself. And that's why that is the test of reading and speaking. This one, you have to listen to the sentence and then repeat it, which means you listen and speak. That's why this is a test of speaking and listening both. Don't think too much about scoring at the moment because you are a beginner and it's more important for you first to understand what kind of questions are asked and what you're supposed to do. This is just your orientation, so let's only focus on what we have to do. So again, I'm going very slow here and I will be repeating and revising and summarizing things again and again so that you can remember. So far what I have told you is, first thing you do is you have to give your introduction. Then your test starts. The first question type you do is read aloud. You do 6 to 7 questions of read aloud. Then you do repeat sentence where you have to repeat a sentence after the speaker says it. Then you go to the third question type in speaking. So what is the third question type in speaking? Let's skip a few questions here.
Just wait, he isn't. The applicable meteor. We must put great care when analyzing.
And this is your next question. This question is called describe image. So what happens in this question is you'll be shown an image, as you can see here, and you will be given 25 seconds to think what you are going to say about this image. After 25 seconds, again, the recording starts and you will be given 40 seconds to describe whatever you see on the image. It looks like a difficult question, but trust me, it's very simple and it's very easy to answer this question. Again, later on, you can check the study and practice section to find out different ways you can answer this question and different ways you can trick the computer to answer this question to get more score. There are some scoring criteria that you have to know, and there is a template that you'll have to memorize. So what is a template? Template is like a pre-made answer. It's a ready-made answer which you can use in any type of question, whether you see a bar diagram, a pie chart, a line graph, a map, or whatever you see on the screen, you'll be able to use that template and get the score you are looking for. Very simple question again. After describe image, the next question type you do is called, by the way, in describe image, you get different kinds of charts and maps and pictures and so on. So after describe image, the next type of question we get is called retell lecture. So let's have a look at that question type now.
Women in the United States and in Western Europe are the freest and most liberated in human.
So this is retell lecture question. So what happens in this question type is you listen to a lecture, which can be around 90 seconds long or sometimes up to 2 minutes long. And you listen to the lecture carefully. And once the lecture is over, you are given 10 seconds to think about your answer. After those 10 seconds are over, again, the microphone opens and then you start retelling that lecture. In a way, you have to retell the summary of that lecture. Whatever you heard in the lecture, you have to summarize it and say it again in 40 seconds. In a way, you are trying to compress the information in the lecture into a good summary. And this can be a little difficult in the beginning, but again, here also we have a template. So as you already know, a template is a pre-made answer. So what you should do in this question is first go to study and practice section and then memorize that template. Once you memorize the template, watch other tutorial videos where I have talked about using keywords and different other techniques to answer retail lecture questions without much problem. So it will help you to get maximum score possible from this section. Now, as you know that in this question type, you listen to the recording and then after that, you tell its summary or you retell that lecture as a summary of the actual lecture. So what are you doing here? You are listening and speaking. And that's why this is a test of listening and speaking both. So you'll get a score for both listening and speaking. So far, we have discussed 4 different types of questions. Read aloud, where you read aloud what you see on the screen. Then repeat sentence, where you repeat the sentence exactly as you hear it. Third is describe image, where you describe an image shown to you on the screen. Fourth is retell lecture, in which you listen to a lecture and then you summarize it in your own words and retell its summary in 40 seconds. The last question type in speaking is called answer short questions. So before I talk about answer short question, by the way, describe image, you get around 5 or 6 questions of describe image, and retell lecture, you get around 2 or 3 questions of retell lecture. So let's look at answer short question. What are these questions?
Employed to magnify minuscule objects. If a person is doing an experiment, what would he wear to protect his eyes?
So just like this, you'll hear a question and then you have to answer this question. You can answer the question in just one word. You can say glasses, you can say they wear glasses, or you can say the device or the thing that people wear to protect their eyes is called glasses. In whatever way you answer, you'll get the same point because the main answer is glasses. As long as you say that word, you get points. So answer short questions come at the end of speaking. You get around 10 questions of answer short questions. And again, you listen to a question and you answer. That's why it is a test of listening and speaking. So in summary, speaking is the first section of your test and you have 5 different types of questions in speaking. Your test starts with read aloud. In read aloud, you read aloud whatever is shown on the screen. You get around 6 to 7 questions of read aloud, and it's a test of reading and speaking. After that, you do repeat sentence, where you repeat a sentence as you hear it, exactly as it is. And depending on how well you do it, you get points, and you get around 10 to 12 questions of repeat sentence. Repeat sentence is a test of listening and speaking because you listen to a sentence and then you speak. Describe image is the third question type, in which you are given 25 seconds to prepare and then 40 seconds to speak about an image shown on the screen. You get around 5 to 6 questions of describe image in your test, and it's only test of speaking. It does not test any other skills. The next question type is called retell lecture, where you listen to a lecture which is around 90 seconds long, and then after the lecture is over, you are given 10 seconds. Then in the next 40 seconds, you retell the summary of that lecture. You get around 2 to 3 questions of retell lecture, and it evaluates your skills of listening as well as speaking. And the last question type is called answer short questions, where you are asked short questions, which you can answer in one word or in one sentence as you like it. You get 10 to 12 questions of answer short questions, and it's a test of your listening and speaking ability. So these are the 5 different types of questions in speaking. A very good way to get familiar with speaking section is by doing the mock mini test. So you can go to the study and practice section and do one mock mini test. And don't worry if you can't answer the questions that well, because of course you first have to get familiar with the structure of the test, and then you can think about what to do. I highly recommend that you first experience the test. You first do certain questions and find out your problems so that you can do more focused preparation. It's not that you know nothing about speaking in English. You just perhaps do not know much about speaking of PTE. What I mean by that is there are certain things you already know how to do. There are certain things you'll have to learn. If you do a mock mini test, you'll find out what are the things you can do with the help of the skills you already have and what are the things you have to learn from this class. And then you can only focus on those skills and get better quickly. So do mock mini test, or otherwise you can also try a complete mock test if you want to get a complete experience of the test. Anyway, after you finish speaking, you go to the next question type, and that is called writing. So the next section we do is writing. So what happens in writing? Let's have a look. So I'm going to skip these questions. Okay, so our speaking section is done. In your test, once the speaking section is done, they will again show you some information on the screen telling you that your speaking is over now and you are going to start writing, and they will tell you about different questions you get in writing and so on. So now, what question types do we get in writing? We get two types of questions. The first type of question is this. This one is called summarize written text. So there is a written text here. Your job is to summarize this text, for which you have to write a summary here in this text box. Okay, the summarize written text is a test of reading and writing, because you read the text and you write your summary. So you can see these are two skills involved. So it's a test of reading and writing. And you get 2 or 3 questions of summarized written text. Another thing, once you start typing, you can see the number of words here starts changing, which tells you how many words you have written. The reason for that is the maximum word limit here is 75 words. You should try to answer this question in less than 75 words. Another important thing is, if you read the instruction, it says read the passage below and summarize it using one sentence. Although your answer can be up to 75 words long, it cannot be more than one sentence. So all in all, you have to read a passage and then you have to write a summary of that passage in 75 or less than 75 words. And you can write that summary in just one sentence only. In order to answer this question, you will get 10 minutes per question, which means for every question you get 10 minutes. Now, what that also means is, let's say that I finish one question in 7 minutes and go to the next question. I don't get 13 minutes in the next question. I still get 10 minutes. So it's 10 minutes per question. Whether you want to use whole 10 minutes or just 5 minutes, that's your choice. Once you move from one question to another question, the timing for the next question restarts from, again, 10 downwards. So it starts counting down from 10 to 0. Once your time is over, the screen freezes and asks you to go to the next question type. By the way, one important thing is, in your test, you can only move forward, not backwards. As you can see here as well, I can only go to the next question, but I cannot go to the previous question. Something you have to keep in mind in the exam. So as I said, we get 2 or 3 questions of summarize written text. In this particular set, we have 2 questions. The next question type of writing is essay writing. So essay writing is just like essay writing in any other exams. You have 20 minutes to write one essay, which has to be between 200 to 300 words. The questions you get in this test are similar to the questions asked in other exams such as IELTS or TOEFL. Mostly they ask about your opinion, and then they will ask you whether you agree or disagree to a statement. Once you start writing here, just like summarize written text, the number of words here starts changing, and you have 20 minutes. Okay. Writing is the simplest one to understand in your exam. In terms of the questions asked, you have only 2 types of questions in writing. One is summarize written text, the other is essay writing. Summarize written text, you summarize a passage in less than 75 words in one sentence. And for that, you have 10 minutes. You get 2 or 3 questions. Essay writing, you get 1 or 2 essays, and you have to write your essay between 200 to 300 words. You have 20 minutes to finish one essay. If you get 2 essays, then you get 40 minutes. 20 minutes per question. Essay does not affect any other section. Okay, so far we have talked about speaking and writing. So let's quickly recapitulate what we have discussed so far. Speaking has 5 types of questions. First is read aloud, in which you read whatever is in front of you. Second is repeat sentence, in which you repeat what you hear. Third is describe image, in which you describe an image in front of you. Fourth is retell lecture, in which you retell a summary of a lecture. And fifth is answer short questions, where you answer short questions in 1 or 2 words. Then your writing section starts, which starts with summarize written text, where you read a passage and write its summary in less than 75 words in 1 sentence, for which you are given 10 minutes per question. And essay writing, in which you write an essay, for which you get 20 minutes. The word limit is 200 to 300 words. After that is done, you go to the next the next section, that is reading. So let's finish this section and start reading. Reading again has 5 different types of questions. The first question type is something that perhaps you are familiar with. This is called multiple choice question. And if you read the instruction, you can see it's multiple choice question. Select the correct response. Only one response is correct. So it's very simple. You first read the question here, and then you have to select the best response to this question based on the information provided in the passage. Only one option is correct here. Very simple. Just like any other multiple choice question. And you get 2 or 3 multiple choice question, single right answer. Now, there is another type of multiple choice question you get in the test that is called multiple choice question, multiple right answer. And in this one, as you can see in the instruction, you will need to select more than one response. So there is definitely more than one correct answer. But how many? Maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5. We cannot say for sure, but definitely there is more than one correct answer. And you are supposed to pick more than one correct answer for every passage or for every question. But the most important thing for you to remember here is there is negative marking. So if you select any wrong response, you will get -1 for that. So if you select one correct response and one incorrect response, you will get +1 and -1, and total will be 0. If you select, let's say, 2 wrong answer and 1 right answer, that will be -2 for 2 wrong answer, +1 for 1 right answer. Mathematically, it will be total -1, -2, +1 means -1. But in your exam, your score cannot be below 0. So if your score comes in minus, you simply are getting 0 for that section. I mean that particular question only. When you go to the next question, your scoring restarts. So it's not that if you get, let's say, 2 wrong and 1 right here, you get -1 and that -1 is deducted from the next set as well. No, the calculation is done for only one particular question. And then after that, you go to the next question and the calculation restarts. So as I said, there is negative marking for every wrong option. And the total can never be below 0. After multiple choice questions, the next question is reorder paragraph, which perhaps is a new type of question for many of you because not that many exams ask this kind of question. So what happens in this question type is there is a paragraph broken into sentences on the left hand side. These sentences are in wrong order. So these sentences are from a paragraph, but now someone has changed the order of these sentences, or your examiner has changed the order of these sentences. Your job is to drag these sentences to this side in the correct order, whatever order you think is correct. How to do this question? Of course, that's something you learn in study and practice section or in the live classes. But for now, just remember this. This order on this side is wrong. Your job is to drag these sentences to this side and put them in the right order. Once you drag them to the right hand side, if you're not happy with the order, you can change them as you like. So you read, you find maybe this is the third, you change it. You think this is second, you can change it. You can just drag and drop it to this side and then reorder them as you like. So far, you may have noticed that in reading, there is not fixed time allocated for one question. In speaking, for every question, there was fixed time. In writing, for every question, there was fixed time. In reading, for the whole section, you are given a fixed time, but When you move from one question to another question is your decision. So you can see here we have 30 minutes total for whole reading section. And you can also see that we actually have 15 questions in this section, but 30 minutes for the total test means roughly we should not be spending more than 2 minutes. Just a simple calculation. 15 questions, 30 minutes means try to answer every question in 2 minutes. Another thing you should always think of is which question you are doing right now. Question number 5 out of 15 means you still have 10 minutes left. How much time is left? You can see you still have 25 minutes left. So that means maybe you are going a little faster than you should be. So you can adjust your speed accordingly. So anyway, all these things I'll discuss in the live class, as well as you can watch other videos where I'm talking about time management. But for now, just remember, reorder paragraph is another type of question where you have to put a paragraph in the correct order, or you have to put the sentences in a paragraph in the correct order. And you get 2 or 3 questions of reorder paragraph in your exam. The next question type is fill in the blanks. So it's quite easy to see what you are supposed to do in this question. This is a paragraph where there are certain words missing. There are blanks in the paragraph. Your job is to pick a word from this list here and then put it in the right place, wherever you think it should go. Okay, so you drag and you drop it to its correct place. You drag, you drop, you drag, you drop, and so on. If you're not happy, you can change the place as well. First, you have to bring it back here. And then let's say that you think this should be the answer here. Then you also pull it back here and then you take it there. Okay, this is how you can change your answer. So again, let's say I think remains should be here and because should be here. I will do the same thing. I'll pull both of them down and then later on I'll swap them like this. There will always be more options than required. What that means is if there are 4 blanks, usually there will be 5 or 6 options. So that means there will always be more options than the number of words required to fill the blanks. This is just to make sure that you don't just by default answer the last gap. So anyway, this is fill in the blank question. You read a passage with a few words missing and then you drag the options and put them in the blank spaces here. You get around 5 questions of fill in the blanks in your test. The next question type is called fill in the blanks again, but this one is called reading and writing, because this question type also contributes to writing. So now let's recapitulate. Before I tell you anything about this question type, let's recapitulate. We have so far discussed about 4 different question types in reading. First was multiple choice question, in which only one option was correct. Second was multiple choice question, multiple right answer, where more than one option was correct. The third is reorder paragraph, where you put a wrong order, where you put a paragraph with sentences in the wrong order in the right order. You put the sentences in the right order. And the fourth one is fill in the blanks. All of these questions only affect your reading score. Only fill in the blanks, reading and writing affects both reading as well as writing. And what do you do in this question? Just like fill in the blanks, it also has blanks, but the difference is in fill in the blanks previous type, or which we also call drag and drop, you just drag an option from the list to the blank spaces, whereas in this one, in each blank, if you click on this drop down, you'll see 4 options. So every drop down will have 4 options like this. And your job is to pick the one that you think is the best option. So let's say that I think proposed is the answer. I just click on this. If I'm not happy, I can re-click on another one and so on. So this is the fill in the blanks reading and writing question, which affects both your reading as well as writing. So we have now discussed speaking, we have discussed writing, and we have also discussed reading. In speaking, we had 5 different types of questions. In writing, we had 2 different types of questions. And in reading, we had, again, 5 different types of questions. So far, we have talked about 12 different types of questions in 3 different sections of your test. Now, the next section is listening. in your actual exam, before listening, you will get 10 minutes optional break, which means if you want, you can pause the test. Of course, you have to inform your invigilator. You can pause the test. You can go out, freshen up. That means you can go to the bathroom and other. It's not completely out of the exam venue, but just go out, freshen up, take a small break, come back and resume your listening. So after speaking, you will have 10 minutes optional break. And the listening section starts. So what do you do in listening? Of course, you listen to the recording and you answer the questions. So how many types of questions do we have in listening? So far, we have discussed 12 types of questions. In your test, we have 20 types of questions, which means in listening, we have 8 different types of questions. So listening is the section with the highest number of question types in your test. Speaking, 5 question types. Writing, 2 question types. Reading, 5 question types again. Listening, 8 different types of questions. So what kind of questions are asked? Let's have a look. Let's start listening. This is the first question type of listening.
Cities are interesting places. Some cities are carefully planned.
Now, this question type is almost same as retail lecture. You listen to a recording, which again can be around 90 seconds long. And then what happens here is, if you remember in retail lecture, after listening to the complete lecture, we would retell it, for which we'd be given 40 seconds. And we'd be assessed for our listening ability as well as our speaking ability, because those were the 2 things we would do in those 2 sections. I mean, in that question type. In this one, what you do is you listen to a lecture and then you have 10 minutes in total, including the recording time, to answer the question. Which means, let's say you listen to a lecture which was 2 minutes long, then you have 8 minutes left. You listen to a lecture which was 1 minute long, means you have 9 minutes left to write your summary. So what you do here, you write the summary of the lecture you just heard. Okay, let's pause for a moment and think about other questions in which we did something similar. In your exam, there are 3 question types where you need to summarize the content. The first is retail lecture, which is asked in speaking, where you listen to the lecture and you summarize the content. And how do you present it? By speaking. The second question type where you summarize is summarize written text, in which you read a text and then after that, how do you present? You write it. You write the summary. The third question type is summarize spoken text, in which you listen to a lecture and how do you present? You write it. So we have to summarize content in our exam in 2 different ways, either by speaking or by writing. In retail lecture, we summarize by speaking. In summarize written text and summarize spoken text, we summarize by writing. So again, because in this question you listen to the recording and you write the summary, you will be tested or evaluated for both listening as well as writing. So how many questions you get in the exam? 2 or 3 questions. So this is another one, another question of summarized spoken text. And then just like in reading, we have got multiple choice questions in listening as well. And exactly like in reading, we have 2 different types of multiple choice questions. One in which more than 1 response is correct, as you can see here, and another in which only 1 response is correct, or we call them multiple right answer or single right answer. And just like in reading, here also there is negative marking, which means if you pick wrong option, you get -1 for that. Okay, and the next question type is, by the way, if there is anything that is bothering you, anything you want to ask, please feel free to write in that box so that I can answer your questions later. So this is another question of multiple choice question, multiple right answer. Most of the times in listening, from every question type, you get around 2 questions. Okay. By the way, I may have forgotten to tell you, summarize the spoken text. Sorry, I actually told you. Summarize spoken text has 10 minutes per question. Okay, and just like in summarize written text, if you go to the next question, timer restarts. So you cannot finish one set in 5 minutes and go to the next question and get 15 minutes. You will still get 10 minutes. But after you finish summarize the spoken text, when you start doing multiple choice question, multiple right answer and other questions, you are given total time. So that means, again, you have to decide yourself when to go to the next question. You will not be given fixed time for one question. If you are not careful, you will be spending too much time on one question and you will miss the important questions at the end. So you have to learn time management. So what is the best way to learn time management? Again, you have to experience it yourself. You have to do mock mini test or the full mock test to get a sense of the time issues and learn the skill to manage your time well. So after multiple choice question, the next question type is fill in the blanks. Just like reading fill in the blanks, here also you have a passage or a paragraph where some words are missing. But this time you will fill these gaps with the help of the words you hear in the recording. And the recording will say exactly same thing as the passage has. Let's listen to this one.
While there is a separate industry department, it has little influence within Cabinet. This has hampered policy development and given Australia's innovation policies a distinctly science and research bias. It is the scientists, rather than the engineers, who call the tune in innovation policy in Canberra. So it's no surprise our policies are all about boosting government-funded research and later commercialising their results.
So you can see that all the words you hear in the recording will be exactly same as the words in the passage, except for a few missing words. So what you do, you just write what you hear in the recording. That's what you do in fill in the blanks. And what are the skills involved? You listen to the recording means listening. You write your answer means writing. So it's listening and writing.
We've decided to adopt just as a...
This is just another question where you listen to the recording and answer. Then this one is called highlight correct summary. It's almost same as multiple choice question. The only difference here is in multiple choice question, they ask you specific questions and you have to pick the option which answers that question. Whereas in this one, all the time you just listen to the recording and then you have to pick one option which you think is the best summary of the recording you listen to. So if after listening to the whole recording, if I feel like this is the one that best summarizes the recording, then I just have to click on this one and that's it. And then I can go to the next question. One thing in listening, before the recording is over in your actual exam, you'll not be able to go to the next question. Okay, you have to wait until the recording is over to move to the next question. Otherwise, you will not be able to click on this button. So this is highlight correct summary, which means listen to the recording and pick the best summary of the recording. This is multiple choice question again, but this time only one response is correct. So as I told you, we get two multiple choice question types. One is multiple right answer, another one is single right answer, as you have seen here. Now the same thing, multiple choice question, single right answer. This one is a slightly strange type of question for many of us. Why strange? Because in this question, what happens is you listen to a recording. So let's actually do it because I think this is something you have to experience yourself. So what happens is you listen to a recording here and the recording just goes on and on and on. You keep listening to it, you keep listening to it, you keep listening to it. Then at the end of the recording, when the speaker is still saying something, you'll hear a beep. That means the last sentence will be incomplete. The last sentence the speaker says will be incomplete. Your job is to complete that sentence with one of these options here. So in other words, what you are trying to do is, based on what you have heard so far, what do you think the speaker was trying to say before he was interrupted or she was interrupted? So let's listen to this one.
So what all that tells us as a general starting point is that this type of narration...
So she said this type of narration, and then now you have to guess what the speaker would have said if she had not been interrupted. So you have to pick one option which would complete her sentence. And this is the same question again. So again, you get two questions mostly. So sometimes the options will be a long sentence, sometimes it will be just one word. Your job is to guess what the speaker would have said. The next question type is this one, which is called highlight incorrect words. So what happens in this one? Let's have a look.
Now, on a visit to the Tampa area way back when, I enjoyed a stinging reminder that not all little red ants.
Now, I clicked on this word stinger here because the speaker said stinging. So in this question, what happens is I have to listen to the speaker and I have to read at the same time. Whenever I find a word which is different than the word mentioned by the speaker, I have to click on that one. I can click as many words as I find different. So in a way, what I'm doing, I'm highlighting words which are incorrect as per the recording I'm listening to. If I think I have clicked on the wrong word, I have to click it again and it will be unhighlighted. So just like this. Okay. One important thing for you to remember here is this is another question type where there is negative marking. So let's quickly think about the questions where we have negative marking in our test. One is in reading, which is multiple choice question, multiple right answer. Another is in listening, which is multiple choice question, multiple right answer. In other words, multiple choice question, multiple right answers, whether they are asked in listening or reading, have negative marking. And the only other question where we have negative marking is highlight incorrect words. In this one also, if you make a mistake, you get -1. So that's it. These are the only 3 question types where we have negative marking. We get 2 or 3 questions of highlight incorrect words. And by the way, this question type also affects your reading score. Why? Because you are reading and listening at the same time. That's why this is your reading and listening test. And sorry, I forgot to tell you earlier, there was a question where you were picking up the correct summary, which I call highlight correct summary. In that question, you are assessed for your listening and your reading ability because you are listening to the recording and you are reading the summaries. And out of the summaries, you are picking one. So that is listening and reading. The last question type in your test is right wrong dictation. Almost similar to repeat sentence, but
there won't be any struggles in the lab.
In this one, what happens is once you listen to that sentence, unlike in repeat sentence, you have to type it. Sorry, the caps lock is on. So I have to write exactly what I heard. There won't be any struggles in the lab. Now, depending on how many words I can remember correctly in the right order, they give me points. There won't be any struggles in the lab. This sentence had 3, 3, 6 to 8 words. That means I had 8 points in total that I could get from this question. So let's say if I write only up to here, then how many words I wrote correctly? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 words. So that means I'll get 5 out of 8. Okay, so there is partial scoring here. So what skills are tested? I'm listening and I'm writing. Means listening and writing. So that brings us to the end of this discussion. We have so far discussed about 20 different types of questions in PTE. And we have also discussed what we are supposed to do in each question type. Let me first recapitulate what I told you about listening, and then we'll quickly recapitulate everything of the entire test. In listening, we have summarize spoken text in the beginning, where we listen to the recording and summarize what we heard in the recording. How do we summarize? We write our answer. Then we have multiple choice questions, where we have one type where we have more than one response is correct, and another type where we have only one response is correct. In multiple right answer type, we have negative marking. Then there is a question called fill in the blanks in listening, where we listen to the recording and type the missing words in the passage. The next question type is highlight correct summary, where we listen to the recording and pick the best summary of the recording out of 4 options given. Then we have select missing words, in which what we do is we listen to a recording in which the speaker speaks until the time he or she is interrupted. So that means the speaker keeps speaking and suddenly they are interrupted. Your job is to guess what the speaker would have said if the speaker had continued. So you'll be given 4 options again, and you pick one that you think the speaker was going to say. And then you have got something called highlight incorrect words, where there will be a passage, a paragraph, where some of the words in the paragraph will be different than the words in the recording you'll hear. Your job is to highlight those words which are different than the words in the recording. And the last one is write from dictation, where you listen to a sentence and you type that sentence as it is. You get 3 or 4 sentences in write from dictation.
Texthalm. The theme.
And that's the end of the entire test. So what are the different sections? We have speaking, we have writing, we have reading, and we have listening. How many questions do we have in each section? Speaking, we have 5 different types of questions. Writing, we have 2 different types of questions. Reading, we have 5 different types of questions. And listening, we have 8 different types of questions. How many questions do we have in total? We have 20 questions in total. How much time do we have for the entire test? Around 2.5 hours to 3 hours. Okay, so this is the entire structure of your test. Of course, you have some questions now. Maybe you are a little bit scared. Maybe you have some confusion as well. And I don't expect you to understand all of these things in just one attempt in one go. So what I recommend you do now is go to the mock test or mock mini test and do this test. As an enrolled student, you can get up to 14 mock tests for completely free, which means you can try at least 1 or 2 mock tests just to get an idea of the different questions asked in the exam, or to get an idea of time management. Okay, and it's always a good idea to do the test before you start your preparation. The reason for that is that way you will know why you are preparing. You know your purpose of the preparation. So if you are doing speaking, and let's say you are doing describe image, you come to know that you can't speak fluently, then you know exactly what you are trying to achieve with your preparation. You are trying to improve your fluency and so on. So do some mock tests, get the first-hand experience of what may happen in the test, what may go wrong in the test, and start your preparation. At any time you feel confused about anything, please feel free to send us an email with your confusion, or ask us these questions in our live session or question and answer session. I hope you have learned something today about this test, and all the best for your upcoming exam. Signing off now.